In today's Writer's Workshop, we are going to be using our brainstorm topic web from part 1 to combine all our thoughts to write our rough draft of our spooky stories. If you want to join me along for this step-by-step lesson, then let's go. In the description is going to be where you will find the free graphic organizer and teacher example so you can follow along with this lesson. Topic web, and we're ready to write our rough draft. So you'll notice on your new graphic organizer that the first thing we need to do is write a hook. Why do we write a hook in a story? Have you ever been looking for a book to read or even assigned a different genre of a book to read and you start opening the book? The first thing you do is usually read a section of the story. And then you might think, this is pretty good. I wonder what's going to happen next. Well, that means the writer did a good job of writing a great hook. So the goal of a hook is to pull that reader in or grab the reader's attention to continue reading. So that is going to be your first task, is writing a hook. So I'm going to share my teacher example of writing a hook, and then we'll talk a little bit about it. The haunted house on Elm Street was going to have its first visitors in over a decade. So this teacher example might lead you to think, I wonder who the visitors are going to be, or I wonder what will happen next. That's the point of a hook. So let's look at some other examples of hooks that may help you come up with your own. Here are 2 examples on your graphic organizer that are general statements. Susie didn't know that tonight was going to be the night that would change her life forever. Second example, Tom and his sister Susie never knew that they would grow a closer bond after Halloween night. Interesting thought. I wonder what it would be like to see a ghost on Halloween. Figurative language. Smash! I heard a loud noise as I walked past the dark house. End question. I wonder what it would be like to be locked inside a haunted house. So those are some examples of hooks that you could use to grab the reader's attention. So now it is your turn. Spend some time thinking of ideas for a hook. And remember, this is your rough draft. So if you struggle at this part, you can always change it later. All right, I will see you in the next part after you write your hook and share with somebody nearby. Introduction paragraph. In an introduction paragraph, we are setting the scene for our reader. So we want to include the setting and our characters, so that way our reader knows what's going on. So let's talk a little bit about how I use my topic web to do that. I'm going to look at my topic web and see, okay, I wrote some characters here. Tom and Susie, their brother and sister. And then I have a detail over here. I'm going to pull Cold and Gloomy and Tom Hates Halloween. So I'm going to add those to my introduction paragraph to help me write it. So let's look at the teacher example. The haunted house on Elm Street was going to have its first visitors in over a decade. The house sat on a hill in the town of Ashburn. It was cold and gloomy that night. Tom, who hated Halloween, was taking his sister Susie trick-or-treating. And it was not what he wanted to be doing. So that is my teacher example. So some things I used is the setting, which was the town of Ashburn. And then I gave my reader a detail. It was cold and gloomy. And then I also included my characters and a little bit about them. We know Tom doesn't really want to be here. So that is my introduction paragraph. Now it is your turn. Use your topic web to pull some details, your characters, and your setting to write your first paragraph. Great, I hope you had some time to share your introduction paragraph and you both had some really great ideas, or if you shared whole group, I hope you got some ideas from other students as well. Let's look at our body paragraph. So now we're going to continue our story. And again, I'm going to pull out some details from my topic web to help me with this part. Let's read the teacher example and then I'll talk a little bit about what I did. The air was cool, so Susie zipped up her sweater. She was dressed as a princess. Her third grade class thought her costume was amazing. Tom did not have a costume and couldn't wait to be done hanging out with his younger sister. Only 3 students dressed up in his whole 6th grade class, and Tom was not impressed with their costumes. Once they had visited every house on the block, it was time for Tom and Susie to head home. Tom glanced at the graveyard and decided it would be best to cut through it so they could get home quicker. So here are some details that I included from my topic web. The air was cool. And then I added a little bit more of a detail to that. My next detail was that I used Tom does not like Halloween. So I talked about him not getting dressed up. So again, I'm using my body paragraph to add in more details to continue the story using my topic web. Now it is your turn. Have your topic web there in the corner and pull some details. Remember, this is just a rough draft, so if you don't like it, you can always change it later. All right, spend some time writing your body paragraph and talking with a partner. Let's move on to our body paragraph 2, which is actually going to be our 3rd paragraph, because now we are on introductory paragraph, done. Body paragraph 1, done. Now we have our body paragraph 2. So let's talk a little bit about how to do that. Again, I'm going to use my topic web, and pulling details and information, I'm going to go ahead and write that out. So let's look at the teacher example and then we'll talk a little bit about what I did. As they were walking through the graveyard, Tom noticed there was a small road off to the side. Susie was too busy looking through her candy bag to pay attention to where they were going. Tom picked up his walking speed and decided to check out the side road. As the road changed to gravel, Tom noticed the big hill at the end of the road. There stood a huge Victorian house. Tom glanced at the street name. It read Elm Street. Tom had never heard of the street before. So this is leading up to my problem. Because we are in a short story, I only have so long to come up with my dilemma and my problem. Here I use some details that weren't necessarily on my topic web, such as there stood a huge Victorian house. I knew that my setting was going to be a haunted house, so I added in the Victorian house to give the reader a detailed picture of what that will look like. All right, so now it's your turn. Go ahead and pull some details from your topic web, add some more details in, and then share with someone nearby, and we'll jump into our next body paragraph. Moving right along, let's jump into our detail 3 or body paragraph 3. Now we are going to tell the reader what the problem is, and we're also going to again give details to paint the reader a picture. Let's look at my teacher example. Tom told Susie to wait outside. As he walked up the front steps, he noticed that the door was wide open. Help! Tom and Susie heard someone calling from inside. Susie gasped and Tom ran inside. As soon as his foot hit the inside of the house, the door slammed shut. Tom could hear Susie scream from outside. He slammed his fist against the door. He yelled, "Let me out!" He could hear footsteps walking up behind him. He quickly glanced around, seeing nothing. The room was very dark. The footsteps sounded like they were getting closer. "Leave me alone!" Tom yelled, hoping it was someone playing a prank. So we'll stop there. That's my teacher example. And you'll notice again, now I'm introducing my problem, which is Thomas stuck in the house. So my reader's thinking, what's going to happen next? Is someone pranking him? What's happening? And because this is a short story, I need to make sure there's not too much here so that I can solve it in my conclusion paragraph. So now it is your turn. What details can you use to paint my reader a picture? How are you going to introduce the problem? So share here with a partner. And we're back. So we have our last part of our rough draft, which is our conclusion. And remember, in the last part, I'm still using my topic web. So I'm pulling those ideas for my topic web. And then I'm going to go ahead and talk about my conclusion. So I'm going to wrap up my story here. And again, we only want this to be about one paragraph because it's a short story. And writing short stories is also a skill. So I'm going to share my teacher example I used from using my topic web, and then we'll talk about what I did. Conclusion. Back here! Tom heard Susie call from the back of the house. There was a broken door that was hanging from the hinges. Tom ignored the footsteps behind him and ran towards the back door. He could see the light from the street peering through a broken window. He quickly ran through the door and was back outside. Did you find who needed help? Susie asked. No, Tom gasped, out of breath. Let's go home, he said, grabbing Susie's hand. They quickly walked away from the house. Neither of them said a word the whole way home. Once they were home, Tom locked the door behind him. That night, as Tom laid in bed, he whispered to himself, "This is why I hate Halloween." All right, so that is my conclusion paragraph. I wrapped up, he found a way out of the haunted house, and now he's back home, and we connect back to Tom hates Halloween. So, using my topic web, I was able to pull details and my conclusion to wrap up my story. So now it is your turn. What can you use from your topic web to pull from to write your conclusion? Because remember, in part 1, we wrote out solutions and problems, and they need to be connected. Your problem needs to be solved in your conclusion. Let's wrap up what we did. To begin, we have our topic web. We write a hook. What can I say to pull in my reader? There are many ways to do this, so you can choose what you feel good with for your rough draft. Then I write my introductory paragraph where I set the scene for my reader using my topic web. Then I continue writing through my body paragraphs using details. My details should all connect to what is happening through the story. I didn't introduce new characters. I didn't introduce a new setting. We want to keep everything within the same idea because my main idea was haunted house. Then I write my conclusion. What am I going to do to wrap up my problem for my characters? Well, there you have it. There's your rough draft of your spooky story. I can't wait to see you in the next part. In part 3, I'm going to read my spooky story to you, and that'll be it. Now, I didn't cover revising and editing, and that would be a great step for your teacher or whoever you're working with to go through. Those take a little bit longer and often need one-on-one help. All right, I'll see you in my next video. Bye, and happy Halloween.